and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your trippy host, Rowan.
And it's your dirty bottle of hallucinogens, Mike.
And it's Jill.
And we are back, and we are Coltonless this episode, so I guess it's just the gals. I don't have like a soundbite to insert with when the gals are just together. We'll have to find one. Do I just insert like some like clip from Spice World or something? But yeah, Colton will be back with us next episode. He's doing a video game jam or something, fundraising money, something important like that. So we'll give him the pass this time. But let's start with what we have been consuming, guys. What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What have we been reading? All that good stuff. Mike, let's start with you.
Okay, what have I been watching? I've had a really busy few weeks with like work and not being able to find time to do anything, which is unfortunate because, as I said, the last couple episodes, I've been really like making it a point the last few months, even though it was like, it's Christmas time and busy, and to really like try to find time, like carve it out to watch as many movies for like my personal viewing as I could. And that just unfortunately did not happen the last couple weeks. So I actually read a book, applause, and I watched a couple of movies.
Yay.
So the book that I reread was Richard Matheson's Hell House, which I had read when I was a kid. I read it before I ever read Shirley Jackson's Haunting of Hill House. I forgot how scary and extreme it was because I've read Shirley Jackson multiple times since then, and hers is more like kind of gothic and refined and I just want to say like literate or literary, and his book is scary and like very violent and sexual and disturbing and depraved. But we love Richard Matheson, like Prey, the short story, and I Am Legend and Stir of Echoes, What Dreams Might Come. Like he's just a legend. Stephen King, it's like his favorite writer. But I read that also because there has been a movie adaptation of it in 1973 that I just, for whatever reason, have had on my list for decades and never gotten around to watching. So I actually then watched The Legend of Hell House, which was wonderful. And it actually does go the route because they filmed it in England. So they excised a lot of the really extreme like violence and sexuality and discussions of depravity and like, the horrific goings on that happen in the backstory of the novel. And it's really beautiful. It's a great movie. It really works because it's beautifully shot. The sets are like just like gorgeous. I want to like lick them all. I always want to lick the screen. The cast is amazing. Like Roddy McDowell, Pamela Franklin, the clothes are beautiful. Everybody in it is beautiful. The performances are like top tier. It's just such a great movie. I recommend that if you have read the book, you watch the movie, and I recommend you watch the movie if you haven't read the book. And other than that, I of course watched some trash. I had my usual every couple of weeks drink too much and watch Tubi garbage night with one of my besties, and we did a continuation of our deep dive into the competing Amy Fisher biopic TV movies that came out after that happened in the early 90s. And the last time we watched the Alyssa Milano one, and this time we watched the Mac Daddy of Amy Fisher movies called The Amy Fisher Story, starring drum roll, Drew Barrymore as Amy Fisher.
Nice.
This was when she was on her like downswing. When I think she was, still going through a period of like trouble.
Yeah.
So she was still working, but she had not had that like kind of prestige uptick with like Scream and her like comeback. So she was doing a lot of like unsavory, I almost want to say, or, just sort of like schlockier stuff than she had been doing and then she would do. It was a bad movie, but it was also kind of fun because unlike the Alyssa Milano one, which had a very like linear narrative, this one was a little bit more dreamlike and weird and chopped up and inserted these like reporter characters into it. So it was like reporter propaganda. So it was, a bad movie, but it was a fun bad movie. There's still one more we have left to watch that Amy Fisher herself was involved with, but that one is, I feel like it's going to be harder to track down, although it might be on Tubi. I don't know. Anyway, so I've just been watching barely anything, and it was a good solid split between shit and just a beautiful treasure. So that's it. Ro, what have you been putting in your eyeballs, your eye holes, and all your other holes?
Getting personal here. Yeah, so I actually, I've kind of done the opposite. I've watched more than I've expected to watch. Because obviously I did manage to meet my goal last year where I was like, I want to log on Letterboxd at least one movie every day for the year. My original goal was 2 movies every day for the year, but that fell to the wayside. I'm kind of slipping already, so I'm like, when I get a chance, I'm, peeping some stuff. First, I guess for the quick promo, it's already out. You can go hear me and Colton talk about. We went and saw Blumhouse's new movie, The Wolfman, or The Hoofman. That might even give away what we thought of it. But you can go listen to that, check it out. I will comment because someone actually wrote me and was like, "Are you guys going to be talking about Presents at all?" And so it did come to Nova Scotia. We didn't do it earlier because it wasn't playing at any of my theaters, but it's still only playing in one theater here. All the other theaters aren't carrying it. So I think we're just going to wait. I mean, maybe that's something I'll pick later on. Probably at the, end of the year, we'll do another What We Missed. But we don't overly like to do the Now Slayings if, they're not everywhere that everyone can see. And it's got, somewhat limited release here. So, sadly, I can't talk about Steven Soderbergh quite yet. But what else did I watch? I did some rewatches. Rewatched Blink Twice and The First Omen, which fantastic. What else did I think those are the only rewatches that I did. So I did watch, or I should say this wasn't a rewatch, but it was a new one to my letterbox. So I watched the original Lion King, which I haven't seen since I was a child.
Oh my God.
I'm always trying to keep up with the Joneses, watching all the new movies. And my goal this year is to kind of, watch stuff that I want to watch or I want to check out. And obviously last year I had said I was going to try to check out more Disney stuff since I was never exposed to that. The Lion King I was exposed to as a child. I had the soundtrack on cassette tape and CD. And,
banger. Same.
And I love The Lion King. I watched it. It still holds up. it's fantastic. And then, I watched a lot of just kind of random stuff. So I watched a movie called The End, which I don't even, I think it had a very limited release at the end of the year. The director is Joshua Oppenheimer. I'm not fully, I don't know him, but apparently he's very famous. He's Swedish. I think he's a playwright. This is a end of the world musical with Tilda Swinton and Michael Shannon. It's a very small cast. And, it's a movie just about classism. It's a rich family, an oil tycoon who's the reason. We don't know why the world is post-apocalyptic. We never see the world, but it's just this rich family that lives underground in a bunker, but they still have a butler and a cook and all this kind of stuff, and they're very odd, and I absolutely hated this movie. It was not good. Michael Shannon, fantastic as all. I don't think I've ever seen Michael Shannon, something I don't like, but Tilda Swinton, can't sing for like the life of her.
No.
The music's like not good. It's like not catchy at all. And it's like almost 3 hours long. And like this justified like maybe 20 minutes worth of existence. And after 20 minutes, I was like, this is just not good. So yeah, watch that. Not fantastic. Finally watched VHS 94.
Hell yeah.
So I'll keep my, like I said, I never really talk horror. So I'll you know,
Okay.
in case we
We'll
ever talk
talk
about
it.
Yeah, I saw, you know, what's taking over the news in the movie world. I finally saw Emily Perez, which, you know, is now history setting with like whatever it is, like 14 Oscar nominations. It's like in a group of 7 movies that have that many. It's like Gone with the Wind status here. I didn't overly love this. I think this is a pretty divisive movie. A movie that it's hard to talk about the politics of it because it also has a twist that involves the politics of it. Very murky politics in it. Obviously, you know, it's making a lot of news because one of the lead actors in it is trans. This is the first trans woman to get like an Oscar, like leading actress nom for the Oscars. I think the only trans actress to get a nomination. And it's a musical. It stars, what's her name? Is it Zoe Saldana? She's good in it. She's really good in it. But she's like better than anybody else in it. Like you can just tell, like, you know, she's the professional and everyone else is just kind of under her. The music isn't very good. It's just really weird. It's set up like what do they call it? Telenovelas or whatever, like Mexican soap operas. It is Mexican. It is a foreign language film, but it's like directed by a white French guy. And it's just like, it's a weird movie. I didn't think it really worked. It takes a lot of wild swings. So, you know, I'm sure everyone will be talking about it as time goes on because kind of seems right now like that's probably going to win Best Picture and all this kind of stuff. I also watched Rap World, which you can watch on YouTube. This is another Connor O'Malley film, which I've, you know, praised his stuff before. He had a short called Corey's. Most people know him from I Think You Should Leave Now on Netflix. He works with Tim Robinson a lot. He's like a really kind of bizarre millennial comedian. And this is like fantastic. This is a documentary set up about a group of white guys in like suburbia documenting them making a rap album in like a one night. But they're like suburban dirtbag 20-year-olds. Like they work at a movie theater. They just smoke dope and party and they're trying to make a rap album. And it was just really good because you like anyone I know that has seen this is like, yeah, like I knew guys like this. I knew guys in high school like this, or this was me. Like it was like very, very relatable and it was hilarious. Lots of quotable lines in it. What else did I watch? I watched Carnage, which I had never seen before. This is a Roman Polanski film from 2011. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, and then a friend of mine, his letterbox like popped up that he watched it, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then I was like, what? Like John C. Reilly? Yeah, John C. Reilly, Christoph Waltz, Kate Winslet, and Jodie Foster. And I really, really like this. Obviously, you know, it's a little weird when you're talking with people. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm just watching this Roman Polanski film. And they're like, why are you doing that? But this was fantastic. It's like, you know, it's basically set. It's originally a play. You can tell it's a play. It's set in like one room. It's about 2 sets of parents. Their kids got in a fight, like a violent altercation, and they're trying to be civil. They're like upper class parents, and they're trying to be civil. And they basically throughout the movie, the discourse, it's like one of those movies of like civilization breaking down, but it's just this family breaking down, showing the true colors. So, you know, like these very liberal parents, and then you find out like one of the dads is like pretty Republican deep down, and like, Christoph Waltz always playing like a fantastic kind of asshole villainy guy, and it's really good. I suggest if you like stuff like that, it's I had a really, really good time with it. What else I watched? I watched Steph Curry Underrated, which I really enjoyed for the sports bros. I know Willow's the only one I know that listens. That's like, hell yeah. But yeah, just it's on Apple TV. I decided I have Apple TV again now, so I've been perusing that, and yeah, it's a documentary about Steph Curry trying to win his next championship reign, and I thought it was pretty good. He's a pretty stand-up guy. One I saw that I won't talk about because it's another horror one. I watched Them on Shudder, which is a French New Extremity film. That is a home invasion-y one, and it might be a pick sometime. It's the French. They just continue to know. I was watching it. It's like an hour and 15 minutes, like in and out. These guys just know. They know not to waste time. And then the last couple I watched Alien. So this is the beginning of, they've obviously announced all the Oscar nominees. I did this last year where I try to watch everything that's nominated for an Oscar. This is one of the live action shorts, and it was all right. This one was about a family where the mom is, like this white liberal wife, and the dad is a Mexican, and he is undocumented, but in the process of getting his green card. And basically they get the letter for him to come do the interview. And what it really is a setup from ICE to deport him, which is a tactic that they use. And obviously, it's a commenting on that stuff. I thought it was a little heavy-handed, and I was I get what they're saying. It's not really done with that much finesse. And then I was, I'm like, all right, let's see who makes it and stuff. And it's just two random white guys, and I'm like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. I could have suspected two random white guys wrote and directed this. It looks good and everything, but it didn't bring anything new to the topic. It's this is bad. The end. And you're like, okay, yes, this is bad. And then, the last thing I'm going to talk about, I kept it for last. And I say I normally don't talk about horror movies, but I will talk about this because I don't know if we'd ever review this or not. So I watched a movie directly after we recorded Alien 3. Called Black-Eyed Susan, which, if you watch this film, it's funny, before we recorded, we were talking about trigger warnings. This is, they should probably have 8 trigger warnings, in front of this movie. I'm not familiar with the director. His name's Scooter McCrae. The more I read on him, apparently he's this very prolific, very indie director from the 90s that makes very, very topical, hard to watch films. So I watched this just because I saw it on lists pop up for stuff. Vinegar Syndrome just put this out, actually, so that's why you can watch it already. It is about a guy that is down on his luck. His friend kills himself, and he gets hired to test out a sex doll that is basically a AI that looks like a real person, acts like a real person, and it is a sex doll that is aimed at the market for men that commit domestic violence. And the doll, bruises and stuff, and it's obviously a actress playing the doll, but it's a real, it seems like a real person, and it just accepts the violence being put upon it. And, there's lots of other insidious things going on. I don't want to ruin it, but I also don't want people to go in and be like, oh, that's not bad. This does get into some pretty heavy things about child sexual abuse, and it's pretty heavy. It's another one of those movies that when I was done it, I'm like, am I on a watch list or something? But it was an interesting, it's interesting to see someone grapple with some very not discuss topics on AI and you know, like sex dolls, sex robots, things like this, like what technology can be used for and how corporate greed really knows no ends. You got to be into it's very indie. It's very almost like straight to video looking. Like this is probably like a zero budget, but very artfully done. I don't regret watching it. It's just, it's a very difficult watch. But yeah, that's all I've been watching. I've been reading a little bit, but nothing exciting. Comic books. So, Jill, how about you?
You've been on a roll with the AI stuff.
I mean, I'm always
subservience.
yeah. It's no subservience. There's if you get hot and bothered by this one, then you're probably immediately going to jail. So yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah, so right after we did that recording for the last episode on Alien 3, I went and rewatched Alien Romulus.
Oh, yeah.
It's now on streaming. And yeah, I just really liked Alien Romulus.
Is it still a sleigh?
It's still a sleigh for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a little bit of time has, it didn't really do anything to my rating. Like going back to it, I'm like, it's still a banger. Like I remember the gravity, like every so many seconds was like on and off. And I just love that in a horror film. And the whole AI feeling, being sentient, I just thought they handled that really well. And I don't know, it's still a banger. I love it. So yeah, Alien Romulus. I rewatched also Scary Movie 2.
Lindsay Lohan,
Nice.
right?
No,
she's 3. Sorry, the
it's
2
Anna
is
Faris.
2 is the strong hand guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I read
Iconic.
something somewhere where it's like the least favorite of like the first 4 scary movies.
Which is wild because everyone I
true?
know,
Yeah.
I don't believe it because everyone
Me
I
neither.
know, even random people that just bring it up to me, love the second one. They're always like, "Oh, the second one with the mashed potatoes," and I'm like,
Yes.
"Yeah."
Yeah, because I read that and I felt bad about myself. I was like, this is my favorite one. This is one I used to rent all the time as a kid and thought it was like super funny. And it still is super funny.
New one coming out this year, supposed to.
Oh, okay. How many are we on now?
This is a reboot, but the Wayans brothers are like involved. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm interested to see what they do.
It was interesting to go back and see as, like an actual adult. Probably since the last time I saw it, I was a kid, seeing what they're parodying. Like I never ever caught the Rocky Horror thing at the end with like
Yeah.
the little guy in his brain. That
1 and 2 of those I find hold up the best because I find those are like they're parodying the movies more so, where I find the rest of them it's more parodying like the pop culture of the time.
Yeah.
So I always thought 1 and 2 were like the best ones, but
Me too. I like the first one as well. But yeah, Scary Movie 2, amazing. I'm sad Colton's not here because I also watched The Devil's Bath on his recommendation, his very strong recommendation. And I liked it. He told me it had witchy vibes, like The Witch. And I have to agree with that. It's a foreign film, but it's kind of wild. It goes to some crazy places. It's on Shudder. So if you're into, I don't know, period horror, that would be up your alley.
Like Ginger Snaps?
Like Ginger Snaps meets The Witch, maybe?
No, I was making a period.
I
joke.
know. I think of that every time we say period horror. But I was going to say, that's literally Ginger Snaps 3. Because it's also a period piece.
No, yes, Ginger Snaps 3
that was very, I think that was like number 1 maybe on Colton's like end of the year list. And I think it was like 2 or 3 for me. Might have been 1. I can't remember, but yeah, I think that was so good.
Yeah, women can't have hobbies is the whole theme of that movie. So yeah, I like that. I also watched Strange Darling. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah. I was gonna say I talked about it last episode.
Fuck. Okay.
What do you think?
I really liked it as well. I saw people on Letterboxd, when they talk about this movie, they're really concerned about the twist of it all, and it seems like most people kind of foresaw the twist before it happens. I did it, actually.
Jill's like, thank God I'm an idiot.
Thank God I'm an idiot, because it made the movie so much better for me. So
sometimes you're just into a movie and you're not like thinking about
yeah.
Like, what's gonna happen.
And I don't think to me, like, I it sounds like I wasn't as high on it as maybe you were. I did really like it. I didn't think it was as everyone was like talking like this was like the great film of the last like bit. I didn't think it was that, but I think even without the twist, like it's a very good movie.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. It looked good. I liked the acting. Like the main character was awesome. The biting scene, like biting off flesh, that was so gnarly. Yeah, it just went places I didn't expect it to go. I really liked it. That's it for movies, but I also watched the first season of Why Women Kill.
I've also seen this.
Yes.
Exilia was watching it. Oh geez, like when it first came out.
2021, I think, is when it came out.
So I saw most of it when she was watching it, just because I was around.
What did you think of it?
I mean, well, I can't say it was really for me. I mean, I guess I kept watching it with her. I mean, it's very W Network, like it's very Hallmark does serial killing.
You stop it. I freaking loved it. It gave me White Lotus vibes. So after this, I had to go rewatch the first season of White Lotus. And they both have Alexandra Daddario, and I love her. I'm also now on season 2 of Why Women Kill, and I think it's based off of like a true story. It's a lot different than the first one, because the first season goes through like the same house, so it kind of has like murder house vibes, but different deaths and different like women living in those houses. The second season is based off of this like crazy true story, but I thought it was really funny. I love a good like dark comedy. I don't know. And I also love White Lotus. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. For books, I am reading right now Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. Me and Mike were talking about this before we started recording. I really like it. It's a good freaking book. It's got kind of like Lovecraftian vibes going on with like the demons and kind of like old gods, monsters, but also it's really horny. A lot of BDSM and spicy, and a little tinge of dark academia. So I'm really liking
bisexual.
That. Bisexual main character and bisexual love interest who's a demon. Yes. And I also read 2 books in a series. The first one is called The Coven by Harper L. Woods, and the second one is called The Cursed. And it was okay. They're kind of short books. They're only like 300 pages. So I feel like if the writer would kind of spend more time fleshing it out, because it's this whole like fantasy dark academia setting, but it doesn't have the time to like go into detail to make it like good. I really enjoyed it though. Like I devoured them. I just wish a little bit more detail was in there, but apart from that, the spice was really good. Again, it's like a witch and a demon together. So I guess I'm like really into demons right now. But yeah,
right now,
always, but right now, like just really into demons and Lovecraftian things. But yeah, that's
tentacles and spikes and all that.
But that's all I've been up to. Oh, and yesterday I went to a tattoo convention in Philly. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Well, what did you get?
Nothing.
Girl.
I just went with some friends who are tattoo artists, and it was just fun to look around and see what's around in the tattoo world. And I saw this tattoo artist that I follow on TikTok. I like walked by her booth and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, I know this person. And then I had a really nice conversation with her and it was really cute. So yeah, it was just a good time.
Oh, I love that.
We love that for you. So with that, we're going to get into our film for this evening. It's Trippy Maine. That is Altered States from 1980. So we're going to start off. This was Mike's pick. So Mike, why don't you let the people know why you chose Altered States?
Well, it's very simple. Ken Russell. That's it.
The end.
The end. Ken Russell. I mean, listen, we've been like long over. I'm trying to remember. I don't even think we've done a Ken Russell movie on this yet, which is bizarre because we've been doing it for years. And I have so many on my list of like, things to pick. Even the ones of his that I don't think are the best, I'm like, I'd still love to pick it and, like have everybody watch it and hear what they think about it. But yeah, I was just like Altered States. I was like, it's that time of year. Like, why not just trip balls and travel to different times and places? Yeah, and Ken Russell, that's all I have to say.
And Ken Russell.
The end, period, full stop.
So with that, let's get to the trailer, and then we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
In the basement of one of the country's leading medical schools, Dr. Edward Jessup, candidate for a Nobel Prize, floats naked in total darkness. The most terrifying experiment in the history of science is out of control. Altered States, rated R.
Now playing at these fine theaters. Check your newspaper for showtimes.
1980's Altered States was directed by Ken Russell and written by Patty Chayefsky, and the synopsis is as follows. A research scientist explores the boundaries and frontiers of consciousness. Using sensory deprivation and hallucinogenic mixtures from Native American shamans, he explores these altered states of consciousness and finds that memory, time, and perhaps reality itself are states of mind. So our first experiences, is this our first time seeing this, or are we always trying to expand our consciousness? You know what, Mike, you chose the film, so why don't you kick us off? Is this your first time seeing Altered States?
Oh, of course not. So I fluked into a couple of Ken Russell movies back in the days when I was like a kid and I would stay up all night with like a towel or like a sweater or something under the door so that my parents couldn't see the light of my TV flashing and I would turn it down really low. Oh my God, Rowan.
I was like, ew, I don't want to know this story.
Listen, there were definitely some nights where that also happened. But anyway,
the same nights, the correlation.
maybe even some Ken Russell nights. I'm just trying to think back now. But yeah, so I ended up seeing a couple of Ken Russell movies and really liking them, and I just remembered always seeing this VHS at the movie store when I was a kid. And not even that it's like some crazy cover, it's just that like cover of him like upside down, and he's kind of like a brown color and has all the like electrodes on him and stuff, and Jill's losing her mind.
Dude, the towel.
And I was like, oh, what's this? She's still losing it over the towel. I should have said like pants or a shirt or something.
No.
Anyway, I got a towel and then it got really hard and gross. But yeah, so I used to see it at the video store all the time, and it like always kind of like spoke to me. Like I was like, Altered States, like, and I'd kind of look at it and I was like, ooh, trippy. Like, but when I was a kid, I didn't, obviously you don't really understand, altered states of being and, being high and stuff. And anyway, so eventually I did say, oh my God, like I'm really into this guy. I'm into films. Like I'm going to download this movie. So I decided that the best thing to do was to get all of my, this was when I was in undergrad, all of my like university friends over to my house, which was like the party house and movie watching house. And there was like 8 of us and we all just got like super high. Nice. And then watched this movie, and I will never forget. There's at least 2 of them were like, Mike, what the fuck have you done to us? Like, we're never coming over here again. Like, this is what you're going to make us get stoned and then subject us to. Goals. And I was just like, and then to my credit, like a couple of the other people were like, holy fuck. Like, let's do it again. Show me more. I'm like, oh, yes, there we go. That's why I did this. For every 5 people that you turn off, 1 person is going to get hooked. So, yeah, and I think I've seen it maybe once since then. Because it's one of those movies that, like, I loved, but I just didn't. I was like, I can't, like, I don't want to desensitize myself to it, you know? I don't want to, like, watch it too much. And it's not the easiest movie to watch. It's very, you know, like, bizarre. And yeah, so I've seen it before a couple of times, and neither time the towels were stiff and crusty. For sure. Jillian, what about you?
For sure. Although I'm a little bit of an expert in Altered States, I had not seen the movie Altered States, nor have I heard of it before until you suggested it. So this is my first time. And I watched this sober. What's wrong with me?
Well, I literally told you
I'm an idiot
last week, do not get stoned before you watch this.
You're right. I think I should have, though. Yeah.
You'll have to let us know in the review
I'll need
how
to rewatch
crusty your
it.
towels were after.
Break them apart, crusty.
Okay, wait, can this be a new, like, judging rubric? Can we change it from its lays to, like, how many crusty towels it gets?
It sprays.
It sprays. Oh my god! I'm done. I'm dead. I'm quitting. I'm quitting. Goodbye. This is it. This is the end.
But Rowan, how about yourself?
I was so happy when Mike picked this. This is I've seen this a lot. I own this as like preteen. I must have had it on VHS or DVD or something. I definitely owned the DVD of this forever. And I have seen this so many times. This is like a very formative movie for me, which is like interesting because and I'm sure we'll get into it, but like I never really watched it like I've watched it this time with like a more critical eye or more like what's going on with the themes. I always watched it as a teen as like, oh, this is just like this trippy movie. This is just like this weird sci-fi horror movie, and kind of just always like enjoyed it as a spectacle. But yeah, like I definitely not my first time. I have watched this all the time. This is probably one of the movies that I can imagine like when me and Exili started dating as teenagers, I would have been like, hey, you're gonna watch this with me.
And she still married you.
That's right. I think she actually likes this movie quite a bit also. But yeah, so far from the first time. This is one of those movies, kind of like Leprechaun 3, that I've seen an obscene amount of times.
I'm so glad. Can I also say that I forgot to mention this earlier? My little brain always used to think that it was the basis for the Sega Genesis game Altered Beast. I always used to confuse Altered States and Altered Beast. So I literally, the first time I saw this movie, even like then when I was old enough to know the difference, I didn't really like look into it. And I was like expecting it to be about a guy who like, turns into a beast. And hilariously, it kind of was.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, with that, let's take this weird gooey black substance and, get into the hallucinogenics of Altered States. Let's open up the door. I'm going to start. My first note is William Hurt looks like my second year political science teacher from MUN.
He's a hottie.
I can't remember his name, but he's like an older gentleman, blonde, like very built. He was like like a football, or I think he said he played football. I can't remember. That was like a long time ago. But yeah, like essentially kind of really gave me that vibe because this guy's like, Eddie's like a little, Eddie's his name, right? Eddie Jessup.
Yeah.
Eddie's a little cocky. That MUN political science was a little cocky. He always used to talk about how he's friends with Pierre Trudeau and stuff, and like they'd hang out and everything, and all the important people he knew, and how great he was at sports. But yeah, it just really gave me those vibes. Also of note, I guess, too, this is William Hurt's first film, so this gave you William Hurt for the first time.
And Almost
It's so
Wiener.
weird because Almost Wiener, I mean, we got a hint of Wiener. Side Wiener, just like, when you do side boob, it's like side dong. That was 2 of my notes. I was like, William Hurt, I know you've gotten your dong out in movies after this. Like, why hide it in this of all movies when you are literally regressing to a like primitive state?
We deserved Wiener.
I know. And like, come Come on.
I thought it was kind of funny because I thought William Hurt out of this, like, I really like this entire cast, and I'll probably talk more. Like, it's funny because I think about like William Hurt is like kind of like a staple actor that people like really know.
Yeah.
I always feel like when people talk about him, or if I listen to like other podcasts on him, like, you know, he represents like something from some movie they saw, but it's never Altered States, where like, even when he showed up in the Marvel stuff, I'm like, oh, hey, it's the guy from Altered States. Like,
I know. Same.
That's automatically what I associate him with. But I was going to say, I thought what was funny was, in this entire cast, I thought one of my commendable things is I think everybody looks like a professor. Like, everybody looks academic in this, except for William Hurt. I was like, he's like the least academic.
He's way
looking.
too hot, yeah.
But then I was like, it kind of goes with the whole thing of like, he's kind of like this, child prodigy, and you know, he's like, you know, too hot for school, Mr. Big Shot, you know, too smart for everyone. But like, you know, like Bob Balaban, who
love him,
iconic. If you're a fan of any of the, you know, like the Spinal Tap, Best in Show, The Mighty, all those like spoof. He's you
Ghost
know,
World.
Yeah, Ghost World. Like, very iconic. I love him. But just like the look, I'm just like, yeah, these guys look like they're, you know, like 60s, 70s professors. For some reason, whenever I watch this movie, I always think about Naked Lunch, you know, where you have the line, it's a very literary high. So every time I watch this, I'm always like, it's a very literary high.
That's true.
But maybe, like, I don't know what you guys think. I think this is one of the best movies I've ever seen portray academia, like that world of academia.
Oh, honestly, the scene when he is when they're split, and it cuts to him waking up in the middle of the night, and then it's like, oh, he's in bed with this younger girl, and then she's like, Dr. Jessup. I was like, that is so fucking real. They're always banging some hot student. Always.
And he does bring up before that scene, because he says in one of the scenes beforehand, he's like, oh, I'm going out to dinner with one of my students.
That is so, like, no offense, I know a lot of people in academia because I was going down that path for years, but, like, it's so typical. I was watching it going, yeah, this, like, literally everything in this movie, like, ticks all the boxes and checks out.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they look it.
They do. Eddie especially, kind of the vibe I got for him was like a Joe Rogan bro, but make it a scientist. You know
Joe Rogan bros love this movie, which is like, it makes you kind of feel gross if you like this movie, but like, this is definitely, there's no way this isn't in like their top list of movies to watch.
Yeah. Baby's first DMT experience.
They're like, this is the movie that inspired me to take like horse drugs for COVID and to eat raw meat to lose weight so I get a tapeworm.
Gross.
But yeah, like, just, you know, you're gonna listen to this whole episode of me gush, basically. Like, the opening shot, I fucking love the opening shot of this film, just Eddie and the deprivation tank.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, we were getting the title card going by, and, you know, automatically, like, piquing intrigue. You're like, oh, what's going on here? Like, you know.
And it's so weird that you mention that, because I do actually really love the way that the title card goes onto the screen, and it just seemed so like flashy, like big budget movie in like the late 70s, early 80s, which is like not the aesthetic that I associate with Ken Russell. So I'm always just like, ooh, like this kind of tickles me, because it's like,
and this was a fairly big budget film for the day. Like,
sure.
I think it was like 12 to 15 million they gave it.
Yeah, it kind of makes it feel like, oh, you're watching like Ken Russell go legitimate, and then you watch the movie and you're like, never mind. He's still Ken Russell. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, he was a late addition, because I know when I was reading about it, I can't remember who it was, but there was another director attached to it, and they basically like left the project, and then they just like hired Ken. This is like a very troubled production where...
Yeah, I did hear that, because I wanted to read the book, and I remember when I was like Googling the author to like get a bit more info on the book. I'd seen somewhere that he wrote the screenplay and then he like detached himself from it after.
He took his name off of it. The Patty Chuvetsky just notoriously like didn't get along with Ken Russell. Apparently, I was reading this was like peak Ken Russell alcoholism.
Cool.
So they say like the Patty guy said he was like extremely hard to work with and would like demean him in front of everybody and just like would try to, one of the deals he had with, I think it's Universal that put this out, but like one of the deals he had was that the script couldn't be rewritten. That was just like in his contract unless he did it. And like he said Ken Russell would try to get around it by like when they were shooting, he'd be like, oh, don't say this. Say this. I wrote this. And he'd do it right in front of him and basically be like, try to stop me. And although Ken Russell, like, you know, claims that he didn't change anything at all, he was innocent. I think it worked out for the best in this.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know why anybody would have an issue because the movie ended up working. So, like, you know, not that, you know, you don't want to have an issue if you're like being bullied or abused or whatever, but I mean, in terms of like the work itself, like the screenplay and the direction, it's like it all worked. So
yeah, I was saying it's a shame. This is an episode that's a shame we don't have Exilia on, because Exilia quite often does sensory deprivation tanks. So she has experience in it and loves them. Says they're very relaxing. I've asked her before. I'm like, have you ever had any like hallucinogenic trips? She says no. She just fell asleep.
I literally would never be able to.
I'd freak out.
Never. Never. It sounds like in theory, a really good idea. And as somebody of horrifically bad mental illness experience, you know, maybe it would be beneficial. But here we are. I also don't want to trip balls because I'm also a person who've had really bad trips experience, so not even counting watching this movie.
I'm very interested in it, but I've said many times on the podcast my relationship with water, even though there's like very little water, I believe, in the tanks, I couldn't do it. It'd creep me out to be on my back or something floating. I couldn't do it. My body wouldn't let me relax because I think I'd drowned.
I would have
even like that little bit of water.
Thoughts about things in the water with me.
Oh my god!
It would be a panic
like
attack.
Like bacteria, or like animals,
like a sea monster,
fish.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
I don't know, man. The intrusive thoughts.
All right, so I was gonna say people will get the edit, but because I had to go tuck my daughter in, but I also got some information while I was out. Not that much water in the tanks. But there is 1,200 pounds of Epsom salts in the tanks. So Exilia was saying, like, it's actually impossible for you to, like, not float in there. It doesn't matter. I still think I would drown. So it doesn't really matter to me. I won't be doing it.
You wouldn't even be able to enjoy it. You'd be sitting there thinking, like,
I'd
instead
be
of,
terrified.
I can relax, because it's not possible for me to drown. You would be thinking, like, I'm going to drown anyway. I'm going to be the first person who's going to drown.
One time when I was
tank.
a teenager, we went tubing, and I, like, fell off the tube, and the water was, like, didn't even go up to my ankle, and I cried. I was like that much in a panic attack. I just thought I was going to die. That's how terrified I am of water.
Dang.
Wow, and yet you still went tubing. You fell to peer pressure.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I know.
One of my favorite scenes in this whole movie is actually quite mundane, but it's towards the beginning. When they're having, like, the party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I have, you know, Exilia, kind of like you, Mike, also for quite a bit was pursuing, you know, like an academic career. So we were, what do you call it? I was going to say hobnobbing. I'm like, what the fuck is hobnobbing? You know what I'm trying to say here. We were,
it's not knob slobbing. It was hobnobbing.
Rubbing elbows with that kind of crowd. The professors going to the parties at professors' houses and stuff. And I was just, like I said, like this whole thing, I was just like, this is literally what any professor's house party I've ever been to is essentially like. It's just, you know, people talking about super academic stuff while they're smoking joints, eating like charcuterie board sandwich type things. You know, me just standing there nodding, being like, okay, yeah, sure.
Oh my God. I remember one party like that there was like 4 of us decided to go into the bathroom, and me trying to roll a joint on this professor's toilet.
Amazing.
And then we walked out, and it's like just the 4 of us, and like just weed smoke going everywhere, and they're like, what were you guys doing in there? And it's like, not what you think.
But I was going to say, this scene, you would think, you know, all the visuals in this, but you would be my favorite. But this scene actually has my favorite visual in it, which is when we get, well, I guess we're being kind of reintroduced as Emily is being introduced to Eddie, but we get that scene of Eddie like opening the door, and it's like all white behind him. You're just kind of seeing,
and the doors
silhouette.
Are playing.
Yeah, and it's just like that love at first sight. Like, oh my God, like he's, you know, his shadowing's like super tall, and it's just like, obviously foreshadowing too of what's gonna happen. Like, because it's just kind of this caricature of like a man in the shadows and what kind of man that is, and I just really, I don't know, maybe I'm a softie, something like that, but I really love all of Emily and Eddie kind of like falling in love and just, you know, building their relationship in this. I think it's, you know, it's so funny.
I feel like it was less of a falling in love than a negotiating a partnership deal. You know what I mean? Like, am I the only one that felt that way?
I hated their relationship. This is what I want to talk about.
I knew it. Well, let's get into it.
So Emily's like kind of little monologue that she has, you know, when she's at her breaking point after he, you know, goes full blown into the chamber that last time. She says, he doesn't give a damn about me. I was never real to him. Nothing in the human condition was ever real to him. He's a truth lover. Reality to Eddie is only that which is changeless. We're all just transitory matter to him. And that is when like the movie started to really sink in for me. You know, just seeing how absorbed he is with his research and his career. And he has this family that he's just kind of cast to the side. And that's what I always like didn't like about him. It's just that he only cared about himself. He was very selfish. And I just wanted her to leave him. Like I wrote in big caps, Emily, dump him.
Dump his ass.
Like I really loathed Eddie's character throughout the whole movie. And like, of course, I'm aware that he's awful on purpose, but I don't know. It was just her like little monologue after that near-death experience, you know, that showed how like destructive he was and his effects on others just like really resonated with me. A lot of times in these types of movies, you have like the kind of like the type of the mad scientist, like to an extreme. And it's not until after he sees the truth that he's like receptive to Emily, you know. It's kind of like too late for me at that point. But like, you know, even Victor Frankenstein like cared about his consequences, the consequences of his actions on others. But Eddie is just like so resolute, and he does not care until he gets everything that he wants, you know. And that's what I don't like about him.
But see, I found that, like, I get what you're saying, but I also found that I thought this was true, or at least what you know, a simpleton like me, like, to me as a simpleton, when I think about, when I'm like, oh, you know, like these professors that are like together dating each other, like this is exactly how I envision their relationship being. Like it's very intellectualized and like, oh, you know, this is the give and take of like what I'm getting out of this relationship, what I need to give you. But at the end of the day, like, you know, my work's my work. And obviously anyone that, you know, knows about what, you know, being like a professor or a tenured professor or anything, especially at someone like Harvard or somewhere, like entails, like, obviously, like, you pretty much have to, like, that is your life, that is your work. And yeah, I thought it was interesting just because I was like, I've met people like this. Like, I've met professors that have kids and you know, like the work is still pretty much all they really care about, and they're kind of odd, you know. I'm sure even, you know, even if you're not going to professional parties, you've had, you know, lots of people that have had the experience of going to college have had like professors that are a little weird. Like they, you know, they're a little off just socially, and I was like, it's just interesting, you know. I mean, obviously with this, they're trying to portray him as like, you know, he's kind of Joe Rogan. He's functioning on a higher frequency than everyone else, and yeah, you know, I think that was interesting, and you know, we haven't even like I said, it's interesting in what we talk about in the film, and like we haven't even talked about like any of the visions or like, you know, kind of the twist of this movie towards the second half of the film.
Okay.
Like, how do you guys feel about the visions and like the themes going on in this? I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I've always been curious of how deep is it really? I mean, there's a lot of writing on this film, you know, like film criticism or even academic work on it. And, you know, there's a lot of religious undertones in this and everything. But I also kind of feel like, you know, is Ken Russell also just giving us images that he's like, this kind of looks cool and, you know, this looks badass and like what these higher frequency would think, I guess. And is there actually, you know, real meaning to it all?
I mean, both of those things can be true, right?
Well, I think so, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, you know, realistically, I think with a lot of films that usually, you know, even someone to me like Kubrick or like someone like that, like a real, you know, Hitchcock or like someone a real high level of directing, you know, I think a lot of the times like we pull all these higher meanings and they may have it laced in there, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to make a good movie. And, you know, whether we take something extra from that or not is our own journey, I guess.
I like that this movie kind of blends like academia. You're always looking for the truth or like the meaning, and it kind of has like some nihilism in there, which is also one thing about this movie that's like really strong. And then also psychedelics. When people are taking psychedelics, it's, you know, they want to find a deeper meaning. They wanted to change their lives and kind of give them something to live for, like a purpose to like, you know, crack the code of life. And it was really interesting, and it was like baiting me on too when I was watching it, because I was like, I want to know what the secret is. Like, I want to know the truth. And then, okay, so like the ending, that to me, I was like, fuck, so there is nothing. I knew it, you know, and it has that really nihilistic feel to it. Like, there is nothing. This is it. This is all we get. And dang, it like deflated me like a balloon. Like, it played me. It played me so hard.
Oh yeah, you can just, I know Jill was there at one point and went, should I get some psychedelics right now and try this? Like, do I want
fix me
to go on this trip? Yeah. It's you're like, I can fix that man by also taking psychedelics and finding the truth of existence.
And I love just the era, you know, obviously this came out in 1980, so, you know, they're probably shooting this, I would assume, like between like 78, 79, like that kind of area. And like, I still think, man, visually this really holds up, like all the kind of hallucinations and stuff. It has such a good style. And I love, like, I think even with taking the meaning out, like, I just love the visuals. Like, we have like the, you know, kind of like the Baphomet goat, multi-eyed goat head going on, being crucified. We get, they splice some scenes out of Dante's Inferno, add like the red layer to it. Like, it's just some great, you know, this, to me, this is like when we talk about, you know, like exorcism movies, I always talk about this stuff. Like, you know, I have no connection to religion, whatever, but I love religion in my movies, just because I think they have great iconic visuals, and I think it really works. And I was gonna say, I also agree, very nihilistic. Like, I still, you know, I've seen this 100 times, and I still, like, when he's giving that first speech about his dad and like his dad waking up from the coma, like basically like, you know, weeping and saying nothing, that there's nothing. And I'm just like, you know, if anything in this movie hurt, man, like some killer monologues.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's like a gut punch.
Yeah, there is some amazing monologues in this.
Because then you're almost going sort of to Jill's point, because I also agree. I was like, oh my God, like I that would have been my note too. Like, fucking dump his ass, get the fuck out of there. Like, what is wrong with you? But also it's like, oh, maybe he has the right idea. Like, what's the point, right? You know what I mean? It's like, you're just bouncing on to the next person. It's like what's the point of any of this?
Yeah. To go back to, how it looked, the psychedelic trips. I really like the colors, like you were talking about, very like kaleidoscopic, like a light show, and also like the goat head. And then when he's talking about like ripping open like a goat's flesh and drinking its blood, and then later he attacks a sheep. But another thing is, I noticed that some of the scenes from like the trips looked exactly like the stained glass in the bathroom in his apartment. Yeah, I thought that was cool, little touch.
I had written down about the that apartment as well, because I feel like when they were, like cohabitating with their family and stuff, it turned into like this very much like, oh, like Norman Rockwell, like on the farm, and obviously that was, a lie. Like that's a falsehood. It's an idea. And then once they split up and he's finally like kind of diving deeper into like his trip, literal and figurative, that apartment like really is like so much more ornate and almost like kind of Catholic, like religious, like a churchy, and the way they shoot in it, and there's like archways and like the beautiful big like fireplace, and I don't know, I think you're right. And like you said, stained glass in the bathroom, like literally it's like, is this the same man? Because I'm not saying obviously the farmhouse also didn't suit him, but this is just like on a whole other level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And also I couldn't help but notice, speaking of the trips and also speaking of the apartment, that there seemed to be like, okay, so I was reminded a lot of like Magritte paintings. And obviously if you're going to do like psychedelic trips and it's surreal, you're going to be like influenced by the surrealists. And I just found that a lot of the like flashes of imagery, especially ones with like blue skies and clouds and stuff, seemed very Magritte to me. And like I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Magritte painting, where it's like a locomotive coming out of the wall in a fireplace.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just really, there was a scene when she's actually, breaking down to, what's his face, Mason, in the living room there, and it's like shot really beautifully, and there is that ornate fireplace that isn't like a fireplace, it's just like a mantle on the wall, and then they've got the like potbelly like wood stove kind of coming out of it, and it just really reminded me of Magritte. And I just thought that those were like really cool touches, because like if you're, like I said, if you're gonna do something like this, they're like touching on the nature of like perception and association and reality and like psychoanalysis, and obviously this grapples with all of that.
I really love too the visuals of when he does the mixture for the first time with like the Native American shaman and stuff, and it's the visuals of like Eddie and Emily like kind of like dressed like Victorian, and they're like eating like ice cream or something. There's like the
sorbet,
the snake coming down, which I'm assuming is like kind of an Adam and Eve kind of thing going on there. And then it like switches, and they're like, he's in a red suit and she's all in like this like magnificent red dress, and I just the like tripping out visuals are really, really good in this. And we've talked about it this much. It's kind of funny with this film what people kind of grasp onto, because like we haven't even talked about the point that halfway through this film, like I mean, this film basically just flips into a totally different kind of movie, where Ken Russell just giving you like a creature feature. Like it's literally like this like bee schlock. He's transformed into this like primitive man.
Wolfman.
Yeah, I mean very Wolfman vibes, but yeah, just running around, beating people, brutally hunting sheep. I thought they were like goats, but
I did too.
He says it was a sheep. Yeah. You know, which to me, probably most directors, like, this wouldn't work. You'd be like, what? Like, what? But it's just like, it just goes with it. Like, to me, I think this is like, it's an awesome transition. And he somehow balances being like, well, I'm actually like, at the end of the day, this is just this schlocky bee creature feature. But even the bottom half of the film, he still kind of holds it up to elevating it a little more. And, you know, I had in my notes, I thought it was really funny because it is a shame Colton's not here because, you know, I was thinking about A24 and, you know, this like, you know, trend of elevated horror and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? Like, you know, Ken Russell elevating horror since 1980. No,
absolutely. Ken Russell's like the king of, you know,
if this was made in 2025, like this would be like an A24 film, and you know, it would be praised for all of its craziness and, you know, how elevated it is. But yeah, like, just like, how did you guys feel about that switch into, you know, him turning into the primate and then just getting like, you know, naked primate guy running around hitting people and throwing metal cans at dogs? And
I'm happy that the dog wasn't killed.
DoesTheDogDie.com.
First of all, yes. But yeah, I kind of love that. It was silly, but like it needed to pay off with that because it was building it up. Like something's going to happen. He's going to transform. We needed to see him fully transform and just go, like, no pun intended, ape shit. But yeah, I thought it was like it was part of it.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and he did pay it off because I feel like in a lesser movie or in the hands of a more like pedestrian director or screenplay, that it might have showed him like escaping the like research basement in the university and then like kind of cutting away and cutting back to like Emily and them and showing the aftermath of it. But like he fully gives us what had to have been 15 minutes of just the total journey that this character goes on. Like, but it's like so like 2001, like Kubrick, like it's so you're like, it's like the history of man, like in like 15 minutes, you know what I mean? And I just absolutely loved it. I was like enthralled.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot how good that scene was because I remember when, you know, there was a group of us watching it and we were all baked. It was like everybody was kind of like laughing at it and stuff. And I was just like, this is so cool. And they thought it was like corny and stuff. And when I was rewatching it for the episode, I was like, man, this is so well done. Like he really, like it really pays off as far as I'm concerned.
Shout out to Miguel Gaudreau, who plays like the primitive ape when he turns into the ape. I was reading like his credits. He literally has that and one other one that I don't know what it is, but it kind of looks like softcore porn.
Is he really that hairy?
Maybe
inquiring minds want to know.
I was reading though, apparently porn. Like it's just it was like a guy that was like part of like some sort of like theater dance troupe or something that like Ken Russell and William Hurt, like they all knew, and it was just like they were like, hey, can you come do this? And he was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you just got to climb a few trees and go up in some you know, pipes
the
in the ceiling.
Electric fence.
Fun. Oh my god, I know.
So funny.
And like honestly, I love that scene because you can see the gears turning in his head. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, he's gonna do it again.
Yeah, I thought so.
We're just gonna get him frying his hands. Yeah, because he leans close to it, and then nope. Like snap up in the tree. I was like, see, this is it. This is like
it was fast.
You're getting like the evolution of man, and
it was finesse too with the way he climbed that tree.
Yeah. Oh, it was like so fluid. It was just like liquid. Beautiful. You could tell that person was a dancer.
Oh yeah, and eating that sheep was pretty disgusting as well. Like very graphic.
Yeah. Does the sheepdie.com. Yes, spoiler alert.
And I like, too, like, I really respect the film, too, is they give you this creature feature, but then they also manage to, like, swing it back into, like, this art house piece where, you know, he dives in again, and then he kind of turns, he, like, physically turns into this, like, you know, like a personification of like this primordial ooze. Like he's like a glob of a person, and the sound work in this is really fantastic. I was watching this with like headphones on. I was watching my Blu-ray of it, and I was just like, man, like the sound in this, it's so like piercing and like not pleasant to the ear, which it shouldn't be, because obviously like everyone's having these reactions to the energy they're passing out, all this kind of stuff. And then like to me, like when she's like pulling him out of after the tank explodes and she's kind of pulling him out of this thing, it's moments like that where I'm like, this shouldn't work. Like this should be like stupid. I should be like, oh, this is dumb. Like, you know, she's pulling him out and it's, you know, it's like a romance or something, but like just everything about it, like they frame it where his perception of her, it's just like her kind of like nude and this like, you know, pasted in this black background, and it looks fantastic. And then obviously, yeah, we're not even done. Then he, when you think the movie's wrapping up, he starts transforming again into this like ooze. I love that whole scene of him pounding on the wall, like, you know, obviously trying to fight for, like Jill said, you know, took all this just for him to realize that he loves his family.
Come on.
Men will turn into primordial ooze before they'll get therapy, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, listen, as Ms. JoJo once sang, too little, too late. Yes.
And I can't believe no one pointed out, shout out his youngest daughter in this, Drew Barrymore.
Drew. Yeah. I mean, and it's so funny because I was talking about Drew earlier.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize I watched the only two movies I watched were two Drew Barrymore movies. Shout out to Blair Brown. I just want to say, like, that woman, I know, you know, it has a great cast, but like, especially that, like back like 45 minutes, I think she carries a lot of it.
She's fantastic in this.
She's so good. Like, she does not get enough recognition.
And like the rest of the cast, her outfits are gorgeous. Very believable as, you know, like this anthropology. Obviously, when we meet her, the, you know, anthropology, she's just going into her PhD, and then we meet her and they talk about she's an associate professor. I will say the one note I didn't say is the only thing I didn't overly like was the random time jump at the beginning. I thought it was I was like, oh, like I always forget it's there, where it's like,
yeah,
like other than just them briefly, someone bringing it up, you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, yeah, we're like 7-8 years past the beginning because now he has kids. Yeah. The kids are like that age, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a weird jump. But I mean, it didn't bug me enough that I was like,
At least they didn't make the movie like 2 hours and 50 minutes long.
Jill, you look like you had something to...
Yeah, I guess I could say it now. I was going to save it for the rating. But I was going to say, this really reminds me of The Fly. Like, I got a lot of The Fly vibes.
Yeah. Oh, it's very The Fly. I thought the same thing. I was thinking how it was definitely an influence on The Fly and Nightmare on Elm Street. I see a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street in this. And also because Wes Craven, I know, you know, was like... He was a teacher, and, you know, you could tell that he's always, like, kind of wrestling with those, like, kind of thornier, like, philosophical questions and, like, existence and reality and perception. And I was like, I always want to know, and I'm like, and now I will never know because he's dead. But I always say I need to Google and, like, find out if, you know, Wes Craven was, like, a big Ken Russell stan, and if he saw this. I feel like he definitely did.
Yeah, there's no way this didn't influence, like, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just, like, super iconic.
And he cast Drew Barrymore in Scream. Hello. Yeah. He definitely saw it. I'm just saying.
So are we comfortable to go into rating this? We'll land the plane. So if you're new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, this is your first time watching Altered States. So what would you give Altered States?
Okay. Altered States. I'll talk about the pros. I think it was really trippy, psychedelic. I really like the scenes in Mexico with like, you know, the native tribes and, you know, kind of doing the mushrooms and all that. I thought that was cool.
And the blood.
And the blood.
And the blood.
That was pretty gnarly. I liked that. What I didn't like about the movie was Eddie. He just like made me really angry. And also the nihilism it's kind of like bleak for me.
Yeah.
Which I know is the point, but it hurts me a little bit because I'm mentally ill. So I found the ending kind of anticlimactic just due to that. But I really enjoyed everything else. I thought it was pretty gnarly. I liked the topics that it grasped with, and I just want it better for Emily, man, because she was able to still have her career. Like, she was, you know, a scientist in her own right, and she's able to like keep it together, keep the family together, while Eddie is just like off doing Eddie things. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to see her do better in the end, but it's kind of like Tarzan and Jane if Tarzan and Jane were scientists, because she's like,
wow.
But
and it is, because he kind of like turns into a Tarzan figure.
Yes,
yeah,
and she's like a specialist in simians, so it's kind of there.
And she does. There is that scene, I also have to say, where, you know, she just came back from Africa and she is wearing her like safari outfit, which is like kind of what you those cute, that cunty like shorts and shoes, and
she kind of has to like teach him a lot of things, like, you know, how to be a human. So you know what, it's the horror version of Tarzan and Jane. So for that, it kind of falls in the middle for me. I'm gonna give it an okay, just because I don't know. I feel like I should be high the next time I do watch this.
Okay, now I regret telling you not to get
I'll
high
have
first.
To try it and see.
I feel like I ruined the experience for you.
No, you didn't. I thought it was fine. It was just now I know what the, you know, the ending is and everything. I can't be disappointed again.
No, that's true. That's true.
But Mike, this is your pick. How do you rate it?
I'm going to land on a sleigh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jill.
I'm sorry.
We knew it. Yeah. We knew it. I love this movie. I love Ken Russell. I never watch a Ken Russell movie because they're always like so fucking like over the top and just like bananas in the best possible way. Even when they're like kind of more like buttoned down and trying to be like normal, they're the most bananas version of normal that you could possibly expect in some way or the other. I just feel like it holds up really well. Like I love, it's kind of like when I watch The Cell, but it's way better. Like The Cell is a movie that I love, but like I find the kind of like skeleton plot to be just rote serial killer, but then I really watch it because I love the like fantasy sequences. And this is the same way in a way, because it's like I love watching the hallucinations, but I also love the like actual story as well. And I don't know, I love to like think about like existence and especially perception. Like I said, I used to experiment with that all the time, and as someone who's had bad trips before, I find this movie to actually be very scary because I'm like, oh man, like I relate to a lot of this like really hard. So I do find it to be a scary movie, and I don't know, I just find it really enjoyable and it's wonderful. It's just like such a sleigh from Ken Russell. I love Blair Brown. I William Hurt, you know what, he's a fucking piece of shit in it, but he's brilliant and beautiful, and the whole cast is wonderful. I love the fucking songs that they use in it, even though there's only like 3. Like playing The Doors at the beginning was like, it's such a like, it like fucking triggers my like sleeper agent. I swear to God, like just playing The Doors in a movie, like, you know, turns a key in my brain somewhere, and you can do no wrong. So yeah, I'm totally honestly giving it a sleigh. I love it. I desperately want a 4K of it so bad. Like please, the gods of physical media, some company snatch this up, make a really good 4K, and get some great people to do commentary tracks for it. So Ro, let's round it out with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I have lots of positives for it. I love the trippy vibe. I love the creature feature of it. I didn't even bring up the fact, shout out John Larroquette being in this, who obviously is super famous for one of the stars of Night Court, also the narrator in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But he plays, I think, one of the doctors or something.
I never noticed him in it ever.
Yeah, he's in this. I noticed it this time. I was like, oh, it's the Night Court guy. I love the cast. I adore this movie. Like I said, Bob Balaban, I love him as like, I love Arthur being like Eddie's kind of sidekick in this. I think he plays such a great sidekick where, he like always concerned for his friend, but also has that, like academic curiosity where he's like, yeah, we kind of do have to do this and, see where we can go. And
we love an enabler.
Yeah, and even I like Charles Hay that plays Mason in this. Mason kind of the hard ass, not wanting to push any boundaries or do anything, concerned with safety. I love this movie. I'm coming in with a sleigh also. I mean, this is just an iconic film for me. I love this movie so much. It's been a long time since I've watched it, which I'm surprised because I used to always watch this like multiple times a year. Like this was a comfort movie for me. I just put it on and I can like do other stuff and I love it. And like Mike said, honestly, yeah, if you play The Doors, I'm sold already. So my love for The Doors is just so much. So 2 sleighs and an okay for Altered States. So we asked, we told you what we thought of the film and we asked you what you thought. And I think sadly, I don't think anyone wrote us about it, which I'm always curious about how popular Altered States is.
That is not right.
Yeah.
Willow said she wrote something.
Yeah, so I'll get into the Willow did write in and just wanted us to know that Luca Guadagnino or Guid.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, why are you guys leaving these kind of names for me? But she wanted to know that he is on record saying this was the film that made him gay. So
I believe it.
So obviously, Luca had a lot of hard towels too going on.
This is the movie?
This is the movie. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see like William Hurt, like a attractive guy for
very
1980s.
Sidong.
Yeah, like I could see that. And you know what? There is like, I don't know. I always kind of get an undertone. Like there's like some like vibes going on here. So
I mean, he's naked in a room with another man for like hours at a time.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And then
I believe it.
The only other comment, which this is kind of off topic, but I like to make sure the listeners get heard. Someone wrote in about Alien 3.
Okay.
And had their opinions. Obviously, Alien 3, we reviewed last episode. So I want to shout out, his name's Damian Knight. I don't think that's his real name, but I do want to shout out that his profile picture is Billy Zane from Demon Knight.
Nice. Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that the response got heard. So he said, this only applies to the theatrical release, but I love that movie. I saw it the weekend it was released. I couldn't understand why it got so much hate. Now, after a few more viewings and many years later, I acknowledge that it does indeed have some issues. Still, this doesn't remove any of the love I have. Haters be damned. This is a sleigh all day for me. I mean, me and Mike, I think we're the hot ones on Alien 3. So we're definitely there with you. It gets its hate, but it's fantastic. And with that, I think we're going to go over to the horrific hotline, and our boy Nicholas left a voicemail. So we'll go over and see what he has to say.
Remembering Altered States, I wasn't really all too fond of the movie. I think I saw it too early, or at least in a phase in my late teens where I just definitely couldn't appreciate what the movie is. and I'm still not loving the movie. I have to say that first, but I do appreciate it way more having seen it again now. It just, or the thing with the movie is the expectation of having this great body horror movie, and I immediately think of something like The Fly or maybe even The Thing, and Altered States is not that. It is something very different, and also body horror-ly, but in a different way and very psychedelic, and well, it is a lot about drugs, and watching the movie sometimes feels like being a little bit on drugs, which I do appreciate in the context of the movie. And the main character, portrayed by William Hurt, is interesting to follow, and the entire concept is really, really cool. I do like what Ken Russell did. I don't know the original novel. I'm not sure if you talked about it, but I think it's based on a novel or a short story, and if it's quite different or not. And yeah, so overall, I'd be for now at a weak yay, because I did like it a lot more than I remembered it. But there are still a few things holding the movie back a little bit for me. I did like that we got a small role of Drew Barrymore as the daughter of our main character, and the scene where he wakes up in the zoo strangely reminded me of American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
That movie should have been out a year or two after Altered States. I'm not sure if they copied that, but I just had this mental image of that movie when seeing the zoo scene. Yeah, so that is basically Altered States for me. I still think that Ken Russell did better movies. My personal favorites are The Devils and this really strange Layer of the White Worm or White Snake.
Oh, I love Layer of the White Worm.
It stars Hugh Grant and Peter Capaldi in two very early roles. That is really strange, but I
was actually going to suggest that one.
Love for you guys to talk about that at one point.
Ooh, okay, there we go.
Because Willow would, I think.
Oh, she'd love that. Can you imagine just doing like 2 Ken Russell movies in like a month? That's wild.
I've never seen
the
other one that you was talking about, the
Lair of the Devils.
I haven't seen any other Ken Russell movie, but
okay,
yeah, Layer of the White Worm or whatever.
Yeah. Oh my God,
I've heard lots of people talk about it. I've never seen it though.
Wild. It's a Bram Stoker adaptation.
That's what we're doing for the next pick.
Yeah.
So, thanks for calling in, giving your opinions, Nicholas. Glad that you're even a light yay is pretty good on it. So if you want to call in to the horrific hotline like Nicholas, you can do so by simply just getting us a voice message somehow. You can send it over email or social media. Just if you can get us a recording of your voice, or if you don't want people to hear you, you can also just write us. And it doesn't have to be about the film that we're, recording about. Obviously, I read a response from someone that wrote one in after about a movie we did in the past, or, you can write in, just comment anything if you got a question about anything horror related or, and all that good stuff. And another way you can do any of that is following us on social media at It Slays Podcast. We're pretty much everywhere. X, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Bluesky, Threads, Letterboxd, Slasher, TikTok, anywhere there's a social media, or if they invent a different social media, we'll be there at It Slays Podcast. And Jill, why don't you let the lovely people know how they can become a horror hound?
Yeah. If you want to join the ranks of our horror hounds like Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Sacrotype, Joy, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose the tier that works best for you. Perks include 48-hour early access to episodes of this main show and access to our Patreon exclusive show, Stream Screams, hosted by Rowan and I, as well as the ability to pick a movie for us to review. Now, any of those bangers gonna make it to the spooky playlist? The 3 bangers.
Is this how I get away with putting more doors on the playlist?
Yes.
It's the only way.
Because I know for a fact we have People Are Strange when we did Lost Boys on the playlist already. So, yeah, I can't... What one do they play in this? I can't remember. Is it the end or...
It's the end, yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Which is very nihilistic and somber.
Oh, it is, 100%, yeah.
Well, maybe that'll have to get added to the playlist. But yeah, go to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media I mentioned earlier. Go to the bio. There's a link tree link. Click there. There's another link take you directly to the playlist. We upload scores or licensed music to iconic horror movies we review, or horror movies we just love. We update it pretty regularly. So, go follow it and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? So the only thing left to do is to announce our next film, which we don't know what it is yet, because our next film is our 6-year anniversary of this podcast. I think when we started this, me and Mike probably and Exilia imagined that this would last 6 months. We might have thought, if that. And here we go at 6 years.
Well, the first 6 months we really were cranking them out, I think, because we thought we weren't going to be doing it for very long. We'll just get a lot out. Also, by the way, I just remembered that it was Light My Fire, not the end. I don't know why I thought it was the end.
There you go. Yeah.
But 6 years, oof.
Cranking them out, losing lots of audio, way more than we do now.
Me with the worst microphone that you could.
My God.
The early episodes are an embarrassment, just quality wise.
I'm sure we'll reminisce next episode. But keep an eye on the social media, because I believe, before you guys are listening to this, we'll be in the midst, I think, of voting for, it'll kind of be in the middle or towards the end of voting for what the film is. There was a lot of great entries. I have to make it very generic because it's not started yet, so just insert your name, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a bad pick. Oh, that looks great. Yeah, that one's good. But yeah, so just keep an eye out, and I'm sure we'll announce later on what it will be. And also around February, I don't know if it'll be right on that date. It might be the next episode, but it's been a little while since we've done a giveaway. We'll have a giveaway coming up. I know we have a new cool knitted horror item for people coming, as well as always some goodies, some 4K, some VHS, some books, stuff like that. So
from Mike.
Yeah, and bottles of DMT from Gill. So keep a lookout for that. And as always, thank you for all the support. We'll be back next episode. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And bye, it's Jill.
See you later.